My friends, let me begin with a truth that echoes through every success story the world has ever known. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. You can crave gold, long for fame, thirst for greatness, and beg for opportunity, but unless you become worthy of those things, they will not come to you. The world is not moved by your wishes. It is moved by your vibration, your energy, your identity. And that, my friends, is under your control. A man may say, want wealth, but lives in fear, scarcity, and self-doubt. Another may whisper, I am ready, and walks each day in discipline, persistence, and service. And to that man, wealth rushes like iron to a magnet. The difference lies not in what they want, but in who they are. Desire is the starting point of all achievement, yes, but desire without character, without growth, without becoming, is like a fire without fuel. You must become the kind of person who is capable of receiving what you ask for. What are your thoughts when you're alone? What do you feed your mind when no one is watching? These are not minor habits, they are your blueprints. The thoughts you dwell on, the words you speak, the actions you repeat, these form the structure of who you are. And the universe responds not to your lips, but to your frequency. Think in terms of vibration. If you want peace, you must be peace. If you want power, you must radiate strength. If you want love, you must become love. The law of attraction is not a cosmic lottery ticket, it is a mirror. And that mirror will only reflect what you truly are. The strongest magnet in this world is faith. Not blind hope, but a burning belief, grounded in purpose and ignited by action. When you speak your future as if it is already yours, when you align your actions with your vision, when your character matches your claims, you become unstoppable. Every day you are telling the world who you are, not with your mouth, but with your discipline, not with your dreams, but with your deeds. Stop chasing what you want and start becoming it. Write this truth in your heart. Success is not something you get. It is something you attract by the person you become. Now rise and become it. Everything in life vibrates. From the smallest grain of sand to the grandest idea ever conceived by the human mind, all matter and thought is energy in motion, and energy, by its very nature, attracts that which resonates with it. You cannot see these forces with your eyes, but you feel them, and more importantly, you live by them every single day. A man may sit in silence and still be radiating a powerful current of energy that either draws others to him or repels them. He may speak no word, yet he speaks volumes through his state of being. This is the law that governs both success and failure, whether a man understands it or not. Your thoughts are vibrations. They create a frequency, and that frequency becomes your signal to the world. If your dominant thoughts are fear, doubt, resentment, and lack, you will, without fail, attract circumstances, people, and events that match those vibrations. And if, on the other hand, your mind is filled with confidence, clarity, love, and purpose, you will find that the very fabric of your life begins to mold itself to that pattern. The secret lies not in trying to force the world to give you what you desire, but in tuning yourself to the level where that which you desire already exists. Nothing in this universe stands still. You are either moving toward your goals or away from them based on the dominant tone of your being. Just as a tuning fork causes another to vibrate in harmony when brought near, your inner condition causes the world around you to respond in kind. You can look at the most successful men and women of history, and you will find they first became the thing they sought. They cultivated it in thought, in feeling, in action, and in spirit, until the world could not help but reflect it back to them. A man who constantly complains of misfortune is often unaware that he is broadcasting signals of frustration and helplessness. These signals are not ignored by the unseen forces that govern our existence. On the contrary, they are answered with mathematical precision. The mind, when trained, becomes a powerful instrument of attraction. But when left to wander and worry, it becomes a magnet for chaos. The choice of vibration is yours. You may choose the frequency of faith, of persistence, of joy, and thereby set into motion a chain of events that bring you closer to your deepest aims. Your mental state is not a private matter. It is a beacon. It draws into your life the people, opportunities, and outcomes that match it. The mistake most men make is believing that they can desire one thing while remaining unchanged within. But the law does not work that way. You do not get what you beg for. You get what you are aligned with. If there is a discrepancy between what you say you want and what you truly are, the law will side with who you are every time. A man may sit for hours dreaming of riches, picturing the house he will own, the business he will lead, the admiration he will command. And yet he wonders why year after year those dreams remain phantoms. He convinces himself that wanting something with intensity is enough to bring it to him. He mistakes desire for power. But desire, though it is the spark, cannot light the fire unless it is fed by the fuel of discipline. Discipline is the bridge between the invisible and the real. Without it, desire is only a wish, and wishes have no weight in the world of results. A man who longs for a strong body but will not train it, who craves knowledge but will not study, who wants freedom but will not act with responsibility, will always be ruled by what he avoids. Desire is emotional. It stirs the spirit. It makes the heart beat faster. But emotion without structure is chaos. The man who truly wins is not the man who wants most, but the man who endures the most in pursuit of that want. He rises before the sun while others sleep, not because he enjoys pain, but because he knows that without action guided by principle, his dreams will rot in the soil of laziness. Discipline is doing what must be done whether you feel like it or not. It is placing the future above the impulse of the moment. It is choosing the path that shapes you rather than the one that soothes you. A man who studies the habits of all those who have accomplished great things will find one common thread among them. They were not always the most talented nor the most fortunate, but they had the ability to command themselves. They became masters of their own time, their thoughts, their appetites. They were able to put off pleasure, to tolerate discomfort, and to act in the face of resistance. In this control, they found the secret that most will never uncover. It is not enough to want. You must be willing to pay the full price, and the price is always paid in consistent action. There are many who desire success but live each day in contradiction of it. They speak of ambition but waste their hours. They pray for opportunity but ignore the work in front of them. They read the words of great men but do not apply them. They mistake motion for progress and intention for achievement. But the truth is unchanging. The universe does not reward what is merely desired. It rewards what is demanded through action. And action without discipline is like a river with no banks. It floods and destroys rather than builds and nourishes. The man who disciplines his days, who orders his life according to his highest aim, is the man who finds that desire alone was never the power. It was only the call to become something worthy of what he seeks. Every man dreams of a better life. He dreams of riches, of peace, of influence, of love that uplifts and a destiny that calls him higher. But few understand the secret that unlocks all of it. You do not get what you dream about. You get what you become. The world does not respond to your hopes. It responds to your identity. You can walk through life wishing for more, asking for more, even praying for more, but unless you change yourself into the very expression of what you seek, your desires will echo unanswered. The world is a mirror, not a magician. It reflects who you are, not what you beg for. A man may want to lead others, but unless he becomes disciplined, honest, and strong in thought, no one will follow him. Another may want wealth, but unless he develops the habits of stewardship, courage, and creative thought, money will slip through his fingers even if it comes for a moment. The desire is not enough. The goal is not enough. You must mold yourself into the kind of person who attracts and holds the life you seek. That means you must build character where weakness lives. You must replace complaint with action, doubt with study, fear with faith. You must train your thoughts to obey you, rather than letting them wander according to the winds of circumstance. The question is not what you want. The question is, what version of yourself are you willing to become to be ready for it? You cannot be lazy and expect discipline to reward you. You cannot be disorganized and expect success to find you. You cannot speak words of defeat and expect victory to knock at your door. Every result in life comes not from the dream, but from the alignment between your inner world and the result you say you desire. To attract greatness, you must carry yourself with the responsibility of someone worthy of it. To draw love, you must first become love in action, not in words. The seed must match the harvest. No farmer sows thorns and expects roses, and yet men flood their minds with anger, envy, laziness, and doubt, and somehow expect abundance, joy, and clarity to blossom. The law does not work that way. It is precise. It is just. It rewards who you are, not who you pretend to be in front of others. That is why transformation always precedes manifestation. You must work harder on yourself than you do on any other goal, because your outer life will never rise higher than your inner self. You must become the type of person who naturally attracts the things you once had to chase. That is the path of true power, not in having more, but in being more. The man who becomes what he seeks no longer waits for opportunity. He draws it because he no longer wishes for the thing. He is the thing every creation known to man was first born as a thought. The bridges that span rivers, the machines that fly through the sky, the wealth that fills great empires, all began in the invisible realm of the mind. Thought is not a soft and passive thing. It is the most potent force known to mankind. It is the root from which all results grow. Every man carries within him a workshop that operates day and night. That workshop is his mind. In it, he builds or destroys, advances or retreats, wins or loses, based on the quality and direction of his thoughts. You cannot think poverty and live in abundance. You cannot dwell on weakness and grow in strength. You cannot entertain thoughts of failure and expect to succeed. The mind obeys the laws placed upon it, and it creates according to the blueprint you give it. Thoughts are not idle. They are seeds. Every single one plants itself in the soil of the subconscious, and what you nurture there becomes the shape of your destiny. If you consistently think of lack, limitation, and fear, your actions will begin to mirror that vision. You will hesitate when you should act, complain when you should build, retreat when you should charge forward, not because the world is against you, but because your thoughts were leading you down that path long before your feet ever moved. On the other hand, if you fill your mind with belief, with vision, with faith in the unseen, your behavior will begin to shift. You will walk with purpose. You will persist through difficulty. You will expect results before they appear, and in doing so, you will often bring them about. No man can rise higher than the quality of his dominant thoughts. What you dwell upon, you eventually become. What you constantly picture, you eventually pursue. What you repeat with emotion, you eventually live. That is why a thought, once planted with faith, begins to stir up all the forces necessary to bring it into form. The mind begins to attract ideas, people, and resources that match the image held within. It is not magic. It is law. And like all great laws, it is both neutral and exacting. It will not favor you just because your intentions are good. It will only respond to the image you sustain with focus and belief. You must guard your thoughts the way a king guards his throne. Do not let fear sit where courage belongs. Do not let doubt replace action. Do not let envy take root where gratitude should live. Because the world you live in tomorrow is being shaped by the thoughts you are having today. If your life is to change, the first place it must change is in your mind. Not with one brief wish, but with repeated effort, disciplined imagination, and a refusal to entertain anything that contradicts your vision. The man who commands his thoughts begins to command his future, not by chance, but by the law of cause and effect in its highest form. Faith is the unseen force that moves the visible world. It is the bridge between thought and reality, between desire and its fulfillment. A man may possess all the talent, knowledge, and vision in the world, but if he lacks faith, he remains powerless. Without faith, he will hesitate when he must act, retreat when he must press forward, and second-guess himself until all momentum is lost. Faith is not blind hope. It is not wishful thinking. It is a knowing, a deep conviction that what one seeks is already within reach, even before the evidence appears. It is the ability to believe in a result not yet seen, to speak it as though it were real, and to act in full confidence of its arrival. Faith is the magnetic force that draws people, opportunities, and outcomes into a man's life. It radiates from him in every word, every motion, every decision. Others can sense it, even if they do not understand it. It inspires trust. It builds momentum. It attracts support. Just as fear repels and weakens, faith attracts and strengthens. The man who walks in faith does not need to shout his ambition. His presence speaks louder than his words. His certainty plants seeds in the minds of others, and those seeds grow into alliances, investments, and open doors. But faith must be cultivated. It must be protected against doubt, against fear, against the influence of those who live by sight alone and cannot understand the unseen. A man with faith acts as if the goal is already his. He does not wait for proof before beginning. He moves with the expectation that all he needs will appear along the way. That expectation becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because it compels action, and action leads to results. It removes hesitation and replaces it with boldness. Faith silences the voice that says, "What if it doesn't work?" and replaces it with a stronger voice that declares, "What if it does?" That shift in thinking transforms how a man shows up in the world. It alters the decisions he makes, the chances he takes, and the effort he gives. Faith must be greater than circumstance. It must not depend on what is seen or measured in the moment. A man may face defeat, setbacks, and delays, but if his faith remains unshaken, those very obstacles can become stepping stones. Faith sees not only what is, but what can be, and more importantly, what will be, provided the man does not waver. It is forged through persistence, strengthened by adversity, and rewarded through action. No man has ever accomplished anything truly great without first possessing an unshakable belief that his vision would become real. And in that belief, he attracts the very substance of success to him, not because he begs for it, but because he aligns with it so completely that the world has no choice but to bend in his direction. The words you speak to yourself each day are not harmless sounds. They are commands. Your subconscious mind accepts them without question, without logic, and without resistance. It does not analyze whether what you repeat is helpful or harmful, true or false. It only acts. This is the power of autosuggestion. It is the tool by which man programs his inner world, and through that programming molds his outer world. When a man speaks words of defeat, he conditions himself for failure. When he says, "I can't, I'm not ready, I don't have what it takes," he plants seeds of limitation that will, in time, bear fruit in his behavior, his choices, and his circumstances. He may not even notice that he is shaping his reality, but the effect remains. But the same principle works in the other direction. If a man with purpose and repetition speaks life into his future, if he says, "I am capable, so I am prepared, so I am aligned with success," and backs those words with emotion and belief, he begins to shift his identity. And identity is everything. A man cannot outperform the image he holds of himself. If deep within he sees himself as small, unlucky, or unworthy, no amount of external motivation can carry him far. But if he deliberately reshapes that image through repeated affirmations, spoken with conviction, he begins to rise to meet that new standard. Autosuggestion is not mere positive thinking. It is not about empty phrases or shallow optimism. It is the deliberate and repeated programming of your mind with thoughts and words that align with the person you intend to become. It is the act of feeding your subconscious a script that matches your vision. Over time, that script becomes belief. Belief becomes behavior. Behavior becomes habit. Habit becomes destiny. The world does not change first. You change first. And the method begins with words. Most men live by the suggestions planted by others, by parents who doubted, by teachers who underestimated, by peers who feared risk. They carry labels given to them in childhood and never think to rewrite the story. They say, "That's just who I am," as if identity were fixed and final. But it is not. It is formed and reformed every day by what you choose to say to yourself. You can begin today to speak a new version of yourself into existence. You can begin today to declare that you are strong, focused, disciplined, courageous, and deserving of all that life has to offer. The process will feel unnatural at first. The old voice will resist, but repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity becomes belief. And once belief is in place, everything else follows. A man who believes he is a leader acts like one. A man who believes he will succeed keeps moving forward. A man who believes he is worthy attracts opportunity. And none of this begins in the world around him. It begins with the words he chooses to speak when no one is listening. Every man who has achieved anything of lasting value has been tested. Life does not give its treasures to those who only wish for them. It gives them to those who persist. The road to any worthwhile goal is paved with obstacles meant to measure your strength, your commitment, and your belief. Many begin with great enthusiasm, but when resistance appears, when things move slower than expected, when others doubt, when failure strikes once or twice, they give in. They retreat to the safety of comfort and complain that fate was against them. But fate favors the man who endures, the man who decides that no matter how long it takes, no matter how many times he falls, he will rise again and again. Persistence is the price the universe demands for anything great. It is the test that separates those who say they want something from those who truly mean it. Talent alone is not enough. Intelligence alone is not enough. Even vision is not enough. Without persistence, all of it fades when pressure is applied. Persistence is what keeps the flame alive when everything else seems dark. It is the quiet force behind progress, the invisible hand that moves mountains, not with one mighty push but with steady pressure over time. Most quit long before they've even given themselves a chance to win. They give up after one rejection, one failure, one setback. They expect the path to be easy and lose heart when it isn't. But the man who understands the law knows that obstacles are not signs to turn back, they are signals to push harder. Resistance is not there to stop you, it is there to sharpen you. You become what you repeat. If you repeat quitting, you become a quitter. If you repeat pushing forward, you become unstoppable. Every time you persist through difficulty, you reinforce a deeper part of your character. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe that you can endure, that you can carry on, even when the world offers no encouragement, and it is precisely that belief, formed in the fire of adversity, that attracts success. Because success does not come to those who want it once, it comes to those who are willing to show up again and again until it can no longer ignore them. A man must make up his mind that he will not stop, not when it's hard, not when it's slow, not when others doubt, not when fear whispers in his ear. He must anchor himself to a purpose so strong that quitting becomes more painful than continuing. And when he moves with that level of persistence, he begins to change the nature of his journey. Opportunities begin to open. Doors that were once shut begin to unlock, not because luck appeared, but because he proved himself worthy through his refusal to give in. Persistence is the path, the proof, and the power. It is the force that builds the man who becomes the magnet for the life he once only imagined. There is a quiet force at work in every man's life, shaping the events he experiences and the people he encounters. That force is the environment he chooses and the associations he allows into his inner world. A man may have the most powerful vision, the clearest goals, and the strongest desire, but if he surrounds himself with voices that belittle, habits that drain, and surroundings that discourage growth, he will find his spirit slowly bent out of alignment with his purpose. You do not rise above the influence of your environment, you reflect it. Just as a plant either thrives or withers based on the soil it is planted in, so too does a man either flourish or fade, depending on where and with whom he spends his time. It is not weakness to guard your circle, it is wisdom. A man who seeks greatness must not merely protect his time and energy, he must also protect his atmosphere. If he surrounds himself with those who speak of limits, who live in fear, who accept mediocrity, their thinking will become his thinking. Not by choice, but by exposure. The mind absorbs what it is most often around. It absorbs doubt. It absorbs anger. It absorbs laziness just as easily as it absorbs hope, ambition, and courage. That is why no man ever climbs to a higher level without first changing what he allows into his life. He must seek out those who challenge him to grow, who live with intention, who remind him of what he is capable of, even when he forgets. Your environment does not only include people. It includes what you read, what you listen to, what you watch, and even what you speak. Every conversation, every headline, every idle complaint you accept into your day either lifts or lowers your vibration. You attract what you are, but you become what you surround yourself with. The man who wants success but entertains failure talk will never build the belief he needs. The man who dreams of wealth but laughs at discipline will sabotage his own progress. The man who desires peace but fills his life with conflict will never know calm. The results of your life are not shaped in isolation. They are formed in the atmosphere you maintain around your mind. It takes strength to walk away from what is familiar but limiting. It takes vision to build a new circle when the old one no longer serves the man you are becoming. But that choice is essential. The path to fulfillment demands that you leave behind the weights that slow you down. It demands that you be intentional about who and what you let influence your inner world. When you clean the environment, when you create a space where belief is fed, where growth is encouraged, where fear is not allowed to lead, you will find that your life begins to change without force.